Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Metabolic Wisdom Podcast. We're still in season 1, which is our foundational season, going through the foundations of what it means to be a fully feminine, fully embodied woman who is living by her biological God-given design so that she can be healthy, balanced hormonally, and just live her fullest life so that she can live out her life's mission. In the last episode, I talked about the body, the physical body, and the number one thing that women's bodies need, and that is safety. And then I also hit on the 3 foundational hormones, oxytocin, insulin, and cortisol, and how important those are. And in this episode, I want to talk about your mind and your mindset. And I know so many people are going to be surprised when they see that this first season doesn't even talk that much about actual nutrition. And the reason for this is because there are foundations you need to set and you need to be aware of, and some self-awareness you need to have before even stepping into a complete 180 turnaround and changing your entire lifestyle, your entire nutrition, and all of that. One of the top things, aside from safety, of course, that we need in order to be successful, I think, in our lives in general, but really with our health, is our mind, and knowing how strong our mind is and being able and open to shift our mindset. So I'm sure that if you're a Christian, you have heard of the verses that say, above all else, protect your heart, for everything flows from it. I'll look up the actual verse. That's in Proverbs, but I can't remember the actual place. 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for everything flows from it. And then I had another verse I wanted to glean from, because this has a lot to do with mindset, and it's Philippians 4:8. And it says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And I know that if we're thinking about approaching this biblically, like Paul talks a lot about in the Bible, taking every thought captive and renewing your mind. And honestly, in the New Testament, we're talking so much about a mindset shift, and I think a lot of us like to think about a mindset shift, but we don't actually like to do the hard work of a mindset shift. But it's so important, and it's something that we really need to work on first, because our thoughts make up our beliefs, our actions, our lives, and they even influence everyone around us, and they kind of just make up who we are. Like, your thought life makes up who you are. That's why the Bible says, guard your heart, for everything flows from it. And I think when it says heart, it really means mind, but that's up for interpretation. I think it's really important that when we think about thoughts, we need to know that our thoughts actually stem from our beliefs. So I don't know if any of y'all listening, if y'all have been to therapy, or if you've done any sort of like mindset shifting or any sort of like self-help, but I talked about this in the first episode. In the last 3 years, I've really, honestly, probably in the last 5 years, I've really dug deep, and I've tried my darndest to do my best to change my mindset, and I've seen such big leaps with it. It started by going to therapy, and then it started after, really taking control of my mind, self-reflecting, books, of course. I love self-help books. And then as I started my business, I've even gotten into a lot of like self-help / business and entrepreneur, either courses or trainings or whatnot. And the common denominator I've seen in everything in the last few years is, whether it's books, therapy, or trainings or whatnot, or like mentoring, the first thing that everyone says to work on, and I think there's a reason for this, is your thought lives and your beliefs, and what you believe about yourself, what you believe about others, what you believe about the world around you, because that really makes and molds your life. If we think about it, if we're able to really shift our beliefs, we're able to shift everything. And I honestly wish that a lot of the things that I say in this podcast could be from the fact that I'm so successful with my mindset. But in reality, a lot of the things that I feel like I've learned about mindset have been from failure of mindset, or just going through the humbling experience of realizing that I didn't naturally have the best mindset ever. And when we're thinking about not having a great mindset and failure, I want to shift your belief about failure, that faithful attempts in learning should be our mindset towards us failing, whether that's with our mindset, with our diet, with anything. We need to choose to not even believe that failure is possible. And that's something I see so many times with clients is they try so hard, they go cold turkey, quit all the things that they've done that they think is unhealthy cold turkey, and then they start to shift their lifestyle without shifting their mindset at all. And they end up failing, faithful attempts in learning. And they believe that it's not a faithful attempt in learning. They believe that they're just a failure and that they're broken and they can't do it, or their life is too hard, or their life is too busy, and they give up after 2 weeks, and then they'll get motivated again and find maybe another practitioner, or come back to me, or find an online program or influencer, try it all again, fail after 2 weeks because their mindset shift hasn't changed, and the cycle goes on. And when we're thinking about who we want to be, and the fully feminine woman, the fully embodied, balanced hormonally, the fully healthy woman, her mindset is not like that. Her mindset is not all or nothing. Her mindset is faithful attempts in learning. Her mindset is patience, balance, not being anxious, paying attention, having a good attention span, being positive, gentle, honest, self-aware. And I think that gets built up over time. Just like Paul says in the Bible, the renewing of your mind, you have to take every thought captive. If you want to refer to the Beatitudes in the Bible, when we're thinking about our thoughts, it all starts with beliefs. So I want you to do a little exercise. I want you to think about yourself. I want you to think about the people in your life, so your spouse, your siblings, your parents, your whoever, your coworkers. I want you to think about the world, just in general, not so much current events, but just the world and how the world works. And the first things that pop into your mind when I mention all of these people and things, is your thought process good, or is it automatically bad? Are you thinking about how you're richly blessed and, life is good and there's hope? Or are you thinking about how hard life is, or how much you don't like maybe some of the people around you, or whatnot? And this is something that I did with myself a while ago, and we're still making progress with it, but I think that shows such a mindset shift, and it makes you so self-aware whenever you force yourself to think about something on the fly, and the first thought that pops into your head, grabbing that thought and looking at it and being like, is this trash or treasure? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this something I need to hold on to? That when we're trying to change our mindset, because I went through this book. I went through 40 Days to a Joy-Filled Life, it's kind of like a devotional meets like a Tony Robbins, excuse me. It's kind of like a devotional meets Tony Robbins. And it's for 40 days, and you're reframing your mind, and it's not prosperity gospel, it's not manifestation, it's Christian principles, it's biblical principles. It's amazing. I highly recommend it, and I'll probably do it every single year. But that process, you journal every single day, and you identify the thoughts you have, and you shift them and you change them. So, like, for example, it will ask you one day to think of everything you're grateful for, and then to think of the things that you're not grateful for, things that are really in the way of you having the life that you want, and shifting the thoughts to go from, maybe I don't like my job, and maybe that's a huge thing. If you don't like your job, shifting it to, this is where I'm at right now, this is where God has me, and soon I'm either going to get promoted to a better position, or I'm going to find something that really works for me. Like, having that hope, that belief, that positivity, although we don't want to be toxic positivity, we don't want to be naive, but honestly, Marie Kondo in your life. I don't know if anybody remembers Marie Kondo. I felt like this was a huge thing maybe in 2020 when we were all stuck in the pandemic and trying to get rid of crap in our houses. But Marie Kondo was a woman who went to people's houses, and she would declutter things. She would take an item and say, is it useful? Is it practical? Is it beautiful? Or is it trash? And I think that's such a good thing to do with your mind and your mindset. And you might be thinking, Sarah, why is this at all important? You're not a life coach. You're not this, you're not that. Why is it important for our health, for our minds to be right? And there's a huge mind-body connection. And I think my example earlier of how, this cycle of dieting, the all or nothing mindset, has been a huge issue with women I've seen who come to me in my practice, something that we really have to work on. Or at first, I'm going to be honest, it was a huge reason for turnover in my business. It was a huge reason for clients not coming back. It had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with, I learned after a lot of trial and error and a lot of questions and a lot of, things, because I was trying to improve my craft. I learned that it had to do with mindset. It had to do with this all or nothing, I'm broken, negative mindset. And of course, this is all just my opinion. Through my practice and talking with women every single day and really digging in and having really deep conversations, because that is something I do. I have deep conversations with most of my clients. I've pretty much found that the connection between our health and our beliefs and our bodies is a huge issue with women right now. And I think it's honestly the driver for a lot of our health issues. In the last episode, I talked a little bit about how there's a huge stress-disease connection. There's actually a book, I think it might be called The Stress-Disease Connection, that you can read, and it talks all about how our mind and our stress and what goes on has such an effect on our physical body that it's so highly connected to disease, dis-ease in the body, not feeling at ease in the body. That is what kind of festers and is the, honestly, seed that grows whatever condition you may have. And we're thinking about mindset here, as I said before repeatedly, we're thinking about beliefs. And the biggest thing I think is in the way of you being where you are right now and being where you want to be, the biggest hump to get over, the biggest bridge to cross, or whatever. I think it's that women don't know what they believe, and they especially don't know what they believe about their bodies. I'm not bashing women. I am a woman. I want to help women. That is like my life's work, pretty much, at this point. I just think we need to be really honest. Think about it. When we're so confused, and honestly, I think a lot of it is not our fault. I think a lot of it is media. I think a lot of it is good, but very sleazy and trickery in marketing. I think a lot of it is big medical system. I think a lot of it is, you could even say patriarchy and just trying to keep society down and keep it controlled. Now, you can disagree with me, but some of those statements I just made, I know you'll think are true. So for example, like PCOS, for example, because that is my specialty. PCOS, thyroid issues, autoimmune, like the sicker the better, honestly, when it comes to a client. For me, like I really enjoy helping people who have a lot of issues going on and they desperately need some direction. And the main thing I see with 80 to 90 to 100% of my clients is that we've been so confused about what to believe. I always get a message before I meet with a client, and I would say more than 70% of the time, they make a comment of, I just don't know what to believe. I just don't know what to think about health, about hormones, about my body, about anything. And we have been fed, lies, kind of. The medical system, the traditional medical system, I don't say traditional because it's not. The Western medical system, so the medical system that we rely on in the United States, big pharma, traditional doctors, things like that, that has only been around for about 200 to 250 years. Human existence has been around, well over 2,000 years. What is it, 5,000 years? I don't know. But when you think about all these new ideas of birth control, that really does balance your hormones. People who think that just controlling your hormones naturally, that's a myth. Has it been a myth for 5,000 years? I don't think so. We all got here somehow. Fertility has been not an issue, I don't think, until now. And I think a lot of us, because what we grow up being taught, traditionally, for example, if you live in the Bible Belt, because I live in Mississippi, the buckle of the Bible Belt here, when you think about it, we grow up as women not being educated about the foundations. We traditionally, if you go to school, you are really just being taught reading, writing, arithmetic, whatever. You may take an extracurricular class, you may take Spanish, you may take home ec. They don't really have that anymore though, which is interesting. Or STEM, or or something. Nobody is being taught how to take care of your menstrual cycle. What does a good balanced plate, what does nutrition look like? What is a balanced diet? How much should you exercise each day? What are these nutrients? We're not taught that, and then we grow up and we get to either high school or college, and whether it's acne, whether it's lack of abstinence, whether it's your hormones or PCOS, 80% of women are put on birth control. No questions asked. And then we get on this pill that we take every single day that alters our hormones, that alters the foundational ways in which our body performs and works. And there's so many different things out there. And we get on Instagram, and we get on TikTok, and we get on all these short form platforms, Facebook, and we're constantly fed different messages, and they're all very convincing. That is the art of good marketing. Like, if there's anything I have learned when it comes to business and marketing, having my own business, helping my husband with his businesses and everything, it is that if you can market well and tell people what to believe and let them know that they need the information you have, whether it's true or not, you can make it sound so convincing that people believe it. You have the whole crunchy mother movement of don't vax your kids, don't do this, don't do that, cut everything out, almost to the point it's a little dogmatic. And then you have the other side, which is, let's just listen to what this male doctor tells us, even though he doesn't even have a uterus or any women parts, but he was trained by a bunch of other men. They don't know really anything about female physiology and how the body actually works and is supposed to work. Let's just trust what this person says blindly and not ask any questions. And when we feel the need to get affirmation, we'll just go back to the doctor and ask him to tell us that it's okay and that all this holistic stuff is a myth, so we feel better about ourselves and the decisions we've made. That's a very bold thing for me to say, but it's true. And it's hard because women honestly are built to question things. Women are designed, we want to know the truth. We want to know the mysteries behind life. We want wisdom. We want to know those things. And I think that there's so much information out there that it's become overwhelming, and women truly don't know what they believe. And I think we've just lost belief. We've lost, self-discernment and just generalized discernment because of so much information that is coming at us that we consume at one time. And so it's hard. It's hard to know what to believe. Should I listen to this person? Should I put all my faith in my doctor? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it leaves a lot of women really dysregulated, really unmotivated, and really disheartened. And they also feel a little bit hopeless. And if you know anything about emotions, thoughts, and energy and how it affects your body on an atomic cellular level, when you're constantly feeling hopeless, when you're constantly feeling in despair, unmotivated, that is the lowest energetic thought that you could possibly have. And your thoughts actually do have control, or they do have influence over how your body is working at a molecular atomic level. But it's because the things that you say, the things that you think, the things that you verbalize, those do actually have an effect on you. And I don't think it's a coincidence that women aren't taught very foundational, natural approaches to womanhood, early on in their earlier years. And they go 2 or 3 decades not being properly educated on the simple foundations of how our biology works. And then we get 2 or 3 decades down the road, and we have searched so much, maybe not in the right places, and we've heard so many different things, and we get disheartened, and we feel in despair, unmotivated, and hopeless. And that makes our health even worse because our body is affected on an atomic level by that. And if you don't think the mind is that powerful, I will suggest some books for you to read if you sign up for my email list. I'm going to send an email out this week. I have my podcast to air on Wednesdays, and I will send out an email on Fridays when you sign up for the email list to get extra resources from this episode. So this Friday, I'm going to try to share some really good book recommendations on, or even some studies on how powerful the mind is. But there's one book called The Anatomy of Hope by Jerome Grootman, and he's actually a doctor, and it talks about how powerful the mind is. And he found in this book that beliefs control your mind, and when you have the belief of hope, that is so strong in your body, and your body can feel your emotions so much that when we have a sense of hope, he actually found that hope had the effects of morphine on the body. So it actually numbed out pain in the body. So when we're thinking about how powerful our minds are, he actually found that having better beliefs and a sense of hope and a better mindset can actually alter your neurochemistry. That's powerful. I mean, and I don't know if anybody has ever met anyone who has beat cancer or who has managed an autoimmune condition or has come out on the other side of maybe like a physical alteration, but maybe they lose a limb or something like that. Like the people who come out on the other side, their mindset is just baffling in the best way. And I honestly think that's wisdom from God. I mean, the Bible says it. I referred to some scripture earlier in this episode, but it's there. It's proof. It alters your mind. And I think that if you believe that God is sovereign, God is good, God is real, He created our bodies for a purpose, and even though our bodies are wasting away, they will eventually come to a stopping point. God did not design our bodies with flaws, and He gives us the wisdom through Scripture, through Jesus, and through prayer on how to live our lives biologically and biblically in order to have a thriving life, in order to physically be able to carry out His plan. So when we're thinking of the mind, that is the foundation. That is foundational, and it absolutely makes so much sense that having a poor mindset would affect even your health, even your physical body. And I don't appreciate when we as Christians use our mortality or our mortal bodies, as an excuse. Like, oh, this is just a sack of bones. You know, one day I'll have my new body in heaven. Yes, you will. But your body is much more than a sack of bones. Your body is much more than this flawed meat suit that you treat it like. And I think if we are constantly treating our bodies like this meat suit, this sack of bones, this, my body's working against me, when you're constantly treating your body like that, well, no wonder it's not working great. But also, like, what does it say about creation? What does that say about what you believe about creation, your creator, and the body you've been given? Because we were meant to be stewards of our bodies. And if we're going to be stewards of earth, mind, body, spirit, environment, we need to know that it is highly. And something I think is so interesting is the things that alter our mindset. As children have pretty good mindsets most of the time. I don't know, I'm not a teacher. Maybe some of the teachers, if you're listening, you can weigh in. But there's a lot of kids who have a lot of hope, who, one day I'm going to be this, one day I'm going to be that. There's a lot of hope there, for kids. But as life kind of goes on, maybe something happens, maybe we go through trauma, but whether it's big T trauma or little T trauma, like small traumas that may not be as catastrophic as cancer, losing somebody, or abuse or something like that. But we all go through things, and I think that's something that shifts our mindset. And in a lot of different, psychologies and healing therapies, it's kind of a known thing that the thoughts that we have because of the things we've been through, the mindset shifts that we have because of the things we've been through, sometimes are on repeat as a survival mechanism. And they're very hard to disrupt, and they're very hard to change because they are these repeated feedback loops. And we have about 20 thoughts a day. We have about 20,000 thoughts per day. Women do. Men have much less because, the difference between women and men. But we have so many thoughts per day. And if we continuously have negative thoughts on a feedback loop to ourselves, we're constantly feeding ourselves with poor energy, with a poor frequency. If you get into the work of fascia built up If you don't know what fascia is, it's kind of like hard tissue, for lack of a better term. Sometimes it can build up in our groin area, in our uterus. Sometimes it can build up, where scar tissue is, like if you have a C-section or something. And it can make it really hard for us to be as fertile, be as mobile. It really debilitates us sometimes as women. When we're thinking about fascia and all that, I mean, even that is influenced by our mind. There's a huge connection between trauma and tension that people hold in their bodies because of the trauma they've been through and because of the thoughts that they repeatedly have. There's a huge connection between that and fascia and your physical body being altered because of that, which is so interesting to me. I had actually found a specialist who talks a lot about fascia, tongue ties, motherhood, and how our thoughts transfer to children, even through the form of things like tongue ties and things like that. Her name is Sara Childers. She's worked with thousands of women to reverse their children's tongue ties and to work on their fascia and their posture and things like that. And she always talks about how the first thing she works on is she doesn't even touch the child. She does not even put her hands on the child. She actually works with the parents and mostly the mother on her attitudes, on her anxiousness towards her children. And there have been thousands of people who have worked with this woman and who have seen their literal children's tongue ties and physical formations alter because the family is no longer carrying that tension. And this just shows you how powerful the mind is, but it also shows you how powerful the female mind is, because you as a woman, and this is something so important and something that I just think is transformational and mind-blowing, especially as me and my husband are thinking about starting a family, is that you as a woman, you as a mother, as a wife, as the gatekeeper of your home, you really do set the tone for everything that happens in your home. Yes, I believe men should be spiritual leaders and submission and all that jazz, but I don't think we realize or believe in how powerful a woman's mindset and attitudes are in the realm of her own home. And when you think about your childhood, good or bad, think about your mother, if you have one, hopefully, her attitudes. Did they cause you anxiety? Did they give you a lot of peace? Was that something you could rest in? And I think everybody will be able to answer that in some sort of fashion if you had a mother that was active. And if you didn't, maybe you could still even answer that. But I think it's so interesting to see how powerful it is, because with Sara Childers' work, she really talks about how the attitudes or the beliefs that you have as a woman radiate so much to the people around you that even your children can hold a lot of tension, and that can be super altering to even their physical bodies, because that is how powerful the mind is. The first step in us thinking about our minds and our mindset is just being self-aware and being aware of every thought we have. And why do I have that thought? Is that trash? Is that treasure? How can I alter this thought and think something differently so that I am better off? And it's so much easier said than done. When I first started trying to change my attitude about a lot of things, I was so surprised at how hard it was for me to just have the best mindset possible. How hard it was for me to naturally think good thoughts. And a lot of times what we consume has a huge effect on what our thoughts are. When we think about, social media, and we think about getting on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, we see all these other people who seem to have it all together, and we start to compare ourselves and think that something's wrong with us, or we start to just be really self-deprecating, and that can shift our mindset immensely. And also just beyond comparison, because comparison is a huge one, but also perfectionism and being really worried about what people think about us all the time. My big thing was perfectionism and what I did and how I looked and all the things, perfectionism, not really comparing myself to somebody, but being extremely hard on myself. And I found a quote a few weeks ago in a book I was reading, and it said that perfectionism was self-abuse in the highest form. And I just think that's so true. Just us constantly being on our own backs about what we are and what we aren't. And I think letting go of some of those things and saying, and realizing that it's okay, and that life is no competition if you struggle with comparison. It's literally so far from a competition, it could not even be less of a competition. But also, nobody is looking at you. Nobody cares. Nobody cares as much as you do. Realizing that truly, even the people that care about you don't even care that much about what you're wearing, what you're doing, how you're presenting yourself. Like, they really don't. Most people are worried about themselves, like you are. Some other things I think that really sometimes affect our thought life, of course, is media, like the news, all the bad information, all the bad news, all the time. That is very toxic. Busyness and not slowing down. Overconsumption, like, I'm not even talking about like TV and social media when I say overconsumption. I really even mean like constantly going shopping, constantly feeling the need to put something in your cart, constantly on the search for something new, even though you have maybe like a closet full of stuff or a house full of stuff, like filling your life with more stuff. Question and individualism. I kind of think these go hand in hand a little bit. So like, something I feel like is something I struggle with and sway into a lot is isolation. I work from home, I'm building my own business, and I don't have any business partners. I don't have anybody who works for me. I don't have any coworkers, and I'm a huge extrovert. And that can be a huge issue sometimes when I don't get enough of that people time to be in isolation and live on an island and be honestly super individualistic and only be worried about myself and not think outside of myself. This is by far the hardest thing, I think, to deal with. But I think more and more as we see more people working from home and less people being involved in church and there being less community in all, like just overall in the United States, like the stats of community and being embedded in a deep community, the actual stats of that are really plummeting. And I think that has a huge impact on our mindset, because when we're not I will say misery loves company, and that's not really what I'm talking about when I say like it's important to be in community. Like, you should not have a mindset in a group of people who also don't have great mindsets. But a lot of times if we just get outside of ourselves and we're able to see that, it doesn't matter, a lot of the things we worry about don't matter, or people do care about us and they want to help us, and there is good in people or whatnot. Like, if you're able to just see that on a regular basis, it kind of helps you to get out of your own head and get out of your own thoughts. But I don't want this to be like a bash. I don't want this to be like, here's what you're doing wrong, stop doing this wrong type of podcast. I want you to know you can change. Like, you can literally change your mindset. It can change a little bit in just a week. Like, if you're really intentional about this and you really put your best foot forward with it, I mean, it can change. And I've had so many clients who have started out not in the best place mentally, but we work on their attitudes towards their diet. We work on, how they approach this new lifestyle. And what I have found that I think is so interesting is that, like, money and time don't matter. It's all about mindset. I work with busy moms most of the time. Most of the people that I work with are just had a baby, have littles, or maybe they're in a super busy season of life, just in general, and they don't have a lot of time. And I don't really work with anybody who's just rolling in the dough. And I think it's so interesting that one of the clients I have who has been so consistent and has made so much progress is a client who works 2 or 3 jobs, has a child, takes care of her grandfather, and is honestly on a small budget. Like, her budget is small, but she is very consistent. She's always getting back on the saddle. She is always just pushing through and knowing that it's progress over perfection, and she is doing so well. And it's encouraging and mind-boggling to me that it really doesn't matter. Money and time don't matter. Now I will say, I don't think you should be busy all the time. I think that women are oftentimes overworked, and that's a huge reason for a lot of our health issues. And that's another talk for another day, just how our society is set up right now. It's just not serving women at all. But, like, the people who stay stuck with their health are, and don't make a lot of progress, are usually the ones that have a troubled mindset. And the ones who come in and their mindset isn't perfect, but it's getting better and they're working on it and they're consistent and they're progress over perfection every day, like even if it's one step forward, two steps back, they keep going. Those are the people who get progress. Like, they lose the weight, they lower their inflammation, they feel better over time. Like, they're not trying something new every few weeks. Like, that's really where it's at. And I said in the first episode, everybody who comes through and changes their health doesn't just change their health, it changes their entire life in the process. They change their entire life in the process. And I think the biggest piece of that is mindset. And when you start with your health, it helps your mindset because you're able to see the physical changes with yourself. You're able to see where your consistency actually pays off. And it builds self-trust, and it makes you believe in yourself more, and it makes you have more confidence. And you're able to see that, oh yeah, I might not be perfect, but I do have self-discipline, and this is possible, and things are possible for me. And it's so powerful, and it's so crazy because I think God is sovereign, but I also think that He gave us humans way more power than we use in our lives. Like, I think that there's something in us that's so powerful that can just alter everything about our lives, just with our mindset, with the words we speak, with what we're putting out there in the world. Like, it's crazy, and I hope to see that in myself one day, look back in 10 years and be like, yes, wow, I really realized the potential that God gave me, and I really used it. And I think that's what a lot of people hope for, and that's what I hope you hope for. So when we think about our thoughts, we think about our beliefs. And I mentioned earlier how women often don't know what to believe, and how, through things I've learned in my life outside of just health, but, in entrepreneurship and business and stuff, if you just tell people what to believe, they like that. They want to be told what to believe. They want to be told what to do. If there's anything that you get from this, please know that you should not just believe in just anybody. You should not believe everything everyone tells you. I think if you start to believe everything you hear, you really need to slow down and take a step back and maybe turn off the TV, turn off the social medias for a while, and really think about what you believe. Really dig into maybe like a good book, like a long form, in detail book about either health or whatever you're struggling with as far as beliefs go. And then trust your own intuition and go from there. Because a woman's intuition is unmatched. Like, when we're actually undistracted and when we are in our fullest potential, the intuition is unmatched. And I don't say that because I think that my intuition is unmatched. I don't think that. I've actually seen that I have pretty flawed intuition. But there are some older women in my life who I've looked at for years, and some of them I've just known for a few months, and I've really been able to see that the wisdom that a lot of these older women have that I really admire and want to be like, they have that wisdom and intuition because they aren't listening to all the noise. So, I do have a few points for us to kind of go over and think about in the next week, and that is to maybe start a journal to replace your thoughts, to write down the thoughts you have and replace them with something that's super helpful. Start with the good things. Start with the good things. Like, the reason gratitude journals in the morning are so popular is because it actually works. Like, being able to have gratitude, to wake up, smell the roses, and think like, oh my gosh, today's gonna be electric. Today's gonna be amazing. I have a lot going for me. Like, that honestly alters so much about what you think about how you do your day. Like, it's absolutely transformative. Another thing I want you to do is to notice your body, how your body physically responds when you are talking negatively. I think a great example of this is, and we've all done it, if you go to a friend's house and maybe everybody there is well-intentioned and maybe everybody there is good people, but we all as humans have moments of weakness, and maybe you spent a few too many minutes gossiping or talking about people, and you leave that conversation and you kind of feel icky, you kind of feel gross, you kind of feel unfulfilled and not great. And I feel that in my body sometimes when I leave a conversation that's like that. I'm like, oh, this just does not feel right in my soul, like not life-giving at all. Like, my intuition just goes off just like that. And hopefully it goes off, during the conversation and we can avert, but sometimes we're human, it doesn't. But I want you to notice what happens, how your body physically feels when the negative words are spoken. Another thing I want you to think of is that the next episode is all about your spirit, and your mind is kind of like the portal to your spirit. So when people talk about, oh, I want to be healthy, mind, body, spirit, like, think about your spirit being up here, your mind being right here, and your body being here. If you can't see me on the podcast, if you're not on YouTube watching this, think about your spirit being at the very top, your mind being in the middle, and your body being at the bottom. Your mind is kind of like a portal, for lack of a better term, between like your spirit and, I could say, your spirituality, but like, this is a Christian podcast, so like your relationship with the Holy Spirit, your relationship with God, like that higher part of you, your mind is kind of like the connection between that and your body. And it's because it starts with our beliefs. Our thoughts start with our beliefs. So it's very important that that middle ground, that mediator, that portal, for lack of a better term, is in good standing. Because if we want to be a fully feminine woman, a fully embodied woman, mind, body, and spirit, like the mind has to be right. And we already know the body needs safety above all else, and the 3 foundational hormones really contribute to how the body feels on a daily basis. But then we need to work on our mindset and the thoughts we have, whether they're helpful or not, and what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about health, what we believe about what we're capable of actually accomplishing in our health and our life in general. And then from there, the spirit, which we're going to talk about next week, because now that I have been talking, this is pretty long, so I'm going to wait and talk about spirit next week. Now, this is nothing of my specialty. Like, it's probably going to be fumbled, probably going to be flawed, but I'm going to share my opinion and what I've learned in the last few years, and I would love for any feedback possible. If you have any, just let me know. Ending this podcast, I think you need to know this, and we'll talk about this more next week, but your mind and your words have a frequency. So if you don't know what this is, everything in this world has a frequency. Now, I'm going to touch on physics for a second. I took physics in high school. Shout out, my grandpa was my teacher for physics and chemistry, taught me very, very well. Made sure I knew it. But when we're talking about physics, everything exists on an atomic level. Everything exists with an atom. It starts with an atom. Atoms come together to form matter. Matter is everything that is solid. It's energy. It's energy that's clustered together, and it forms solid matter, liquid matter, things like that. So everything is made up of some sort of atom. The elements, our cells are made up of atoms. And if you know anything about chemistry, you know that atoms vibrate. They have a vibrational frequency. They can either vibrate very slowly and have a low vibrational frequency, or they can vibrate very fast and have a fast vibrational frequency. And you may not realize this, but your body is at its healthiest when your atoms that you're made out of are vibrating at a high frequency. And if we believe in God, if we believe in His creation, then we know that this is all by design, and science is not a mistake. It's not a myth. It has to align with our beliefs. If we believe this is true, science has to line up with it. So stick with me here. Everything has a vibrational frequency, and they've actually found that eating healthier foods, being outside, getting sunshine, increase our vibrational frequency. Also, even wearing natural fibers rather than plastics increases our vibrational frequency, makes our cells healthier. Like, when we have good energy, when our atoms are vibrating at a higher frequency, we are healthier, we're more embodied, we're more living by our biological design and how our bodies are supposed to be, like the state our bodies are supposed to be in, it puts it in that state. And they've even found now that the words you speak, so it all starts with your beliefs and with your thoughts, and then from that comes out the words that you speak. The words that you speak can actually alter your vibrational frequency. And what I talked about earlier is when you are speaking or thinking hopelessness and just despair, that actually causes your atoms, the things that make up your cells and your every fiber of your being, literally every fiber of your being, that causes those atoms to vibrate at a lower frequency. And that's not good, because that is where dis-ease happens. That's where things don't function as well. That's where your body has very low energy, and we were not meant to live like that. What's funny is that, when you get into the other emotions, it kind of goes up on the scale. So that's the lowest you can be. But then you get to like anger, and anger is sometimes good, sometimes bad. You know, it varies. But that is a little bit faster vibrational frequency. Like, man, at least you're not in despair. At least you're mad and not in despair. At least you're mad and know maybe you can do something about your life, you know? And that's like a medium vibrational frequency. But then the highest vibrational frequency, the highest, the words that you speak that give you and exude that high vibrational frequency literally causes your atoms, the things that make up your cells, to vibrate faster and work better. The highest emotion, thought pattern that you can have for that is hope. And I think it's interesting, the Bible talks a lot about hope, the hope we have, that put your hope in the Lord, you know, all the things, hope, hope, hope. That causes our literal atoms in our body to vibrate at the highest frequency possible, which is what we want. And if we're constantly living in that state of gratitude, hope, and just not positivity for lack of a better term, if we're constantly living in that state, that is good for our bodies. That is, hope comes with confidence. Confidence and hope are besties. They go hand in hand. When we have that, we're vibrating at the highest frequency. And I'm going to talk about this a lot more in depth in the next episode, but I'm leaving you with this. Know that your mindset is foundational, it's transformational, and it alters your actual physical being. So, if you like this episode, please subscribe. I will have my email newsletter down below that you can subscribe to, and get on the email newsletter, and you will get some resources, some additional resources this Friday. I don't send out any spam. I only do really valuable content, because guess what? I hate writing emails. And so I don't write an email unless I'm very excited about it and I think it's very valuable information. So subscribe to my email list and you'll get that. But if you are interested in becoming a fully embodied woman, if you're interested in altering your health for the better and altering your life for the better, but starting with your health, I have a fully immersive 12-week one-on-one intensive program that includes 3 metabolic tests, the GI map, the Dutch hormone test, and the hair tissue mineral analysis test. This program is the best program I have. If you're interested in fully immersing in your health, sign up for that program. I'll have a link for it below. This is my fully feminine program where I meet with you on a weekly basis for 12 weeks. It doesn't have to be consistent 12 weeks, but for 12 weeks. And we fully deep dive into your health as a woman and transform your body from the inside out. It's absolutely wonderful. I also have a few other programs that if you're interested in, you can look at on my website. But for now, that's it. I hope you have a good week. Keep becoming a fully feminine woman, and we'll talk soon.